Hi there, it's Diane. Welcome to my basement. Today we're going to be talking about polygons and quadrilaterals. So go ahead and turn your book to page 61. Great. So what's the first thing you should ask yourself? Well, you should ask yourself, what's a polygon and what's a quadrilateral? Well, our book says that a polygon is a plane figure formed by a closed straight line. A polygon has many sides. So if I was to draw a polygon, I would need a plane figure or two-dimensional shape that has a closed line. So all my lines, they're straight lines and they touch, they meet, so that there's no way to get inside of it. Here's an example that is not a polygon. A squiggly line is not a polygon. Also, if you had, let's say, straight lines, but they do not meet, that means you can just get inside of it, that is also not a polygon. All right, so only polygons are formed by closed straight lines and they have many sides. Okay, I think that makes sense. But what's a quadrilateral? Our book says that a quadrilateral is a four-sided polygon. Quadrilaterals can be classified according to their properties. That is, according to whether they have a shape that is either convex or non-convex. The word non-convex, I've heard it called concave before, and I really like the word concave better because it reminds me of a cave, and a cave has an opening that you go inside of. So the word convex and concave or non-convex, here's examples. The first shape is convex, meaning that the vertices, or where the lines meet, they point outwards. But here, if you look at this shape, where the lines meet, there is an indentation, you can say. So it's concave, it points inside of the polygon. Does that make sense to you? Convex and non-convex. Or you can say concave, it goes inside, it points inwards. We also can determine if shapes have sides with the same length. So let's look at a rectangle. On a rectangle, these two parallel sides have the same length. And then the top and bottom, these parallel lines also have the same length. If you can think of a square, all the sides of a square have the same length. You can also look at parallel sides. So in this shape, these sides are parallel. On this shape, there are no parallel sides because eventually they'll always meet. They're at an angle so that eventually they'll bump into each other. You can also talk about right angles. So here is a shape with a right angle. It has four right angles, doesn't it? And here is a shape that does not have right angles. Let's look a little further into this. So we classify quadrilaterals. We give them a name. So here are names that we can give quadrilaterals. Remember, a quadrilateral has four sides. It's a polygon with four sides. Quad actually means four. So this is a trapezoid. it has 4 sides. The parallelogram, 4 sides. Rectangle, 4 sides. Rhombus, you got it, 4 sides. And finally, a square. They all have 4 sides. That's great. Another characteristic that they all have is that they're all convex polygons. So all of their points, all of their vertices point outwards. Do you notice that? So all of these quadrilaterals are convex polygons. So how do we tell them apart? Well, I did this little drawing, I highlighted for you, because it's kind of complicated, even for me. So what I like to do is I like to use colors to help. So if you look at the trapezoid, we know that it's convex, and we know it has at least one pair of parallel sides. When we say at least, you need one, obviously, one pair. Remember, think of like your socks. A pair of socks means you need 2 of them. So at least one pair of parallel sides means you need 2 lines that are parallel. These 2. These sides are going to be parallel and at least one pair. So think of your socks. You need 2 of the lines to equal one pair. Okay, so that's a trapezoid. How is a trapezoid different than a parallelogram? Well, I made blue the similarities. So the parallelogram needs 2 pairs of parallel sides. We said in a trapezoid it needed at least one. A parallelogram needs 2 sides. And I added a new color this time. They have to be the same length. So here are 2 parallel lines, our pair of parallel lines. This side needs to be the same length. And here, this side, right, they need to be the same length. And they're also parallel. So basically, it's a rectangle that's been twisted a little bit because we see 2 pairs of parallel lines of the same length. But let's look at the rectangle. The rectangle, it's like a parallelogram except that it needs 4 right angles. So I added the red color, 4 right angles. So look at this. Can a rectangle be a parallelogram? Yes, it can be, because a parallelogram only needs 2 pairs of parallel sides the same length, and a rectangle has that. So a rectangle can be a parallelogram. Can a rectangle be a trapezoid? Yes, because a trapezoid just needs at least one pair of parallel sides, and a rectangle does have at least one pair of parallel sides. So I put all 3 colors. So a trapezoid can be blue, a parallelogram can be purple and blue, so a parallelogram can also be a trapezoid, and a rectangle can be both a parallelogram and a trapezoid. It is so tricky, I know, but I hope the colors help you. Let's look at a rhombus. Now a rhombus has to have, well, obviously a convex polygon, we've talked about that, but it also needs to have 2 pairs of parallel sides. So here our 2 sides are parallel, and this way our 2 sides are parallel. It also needs 4 sides that are all the same length. That's new. We haven't had all 4 sides that had to have the same length. So for rhombus, I added the color green. Let's look at square. Ooh, a square is beautiful because it has all 4 colors. A square needs to have 2 pairs of parallel sides. It needs 4 sides all the same length, and it needs 4 right angles. Remember a right angle? It needed to be 90 degrees. It intersects at 90 degrees, are perpendicular lines, doesn't it? So, a square can be a rhombus. It has both the green and the blue. A square is also considered a rectangle because it has 4 right angles, 2 pairs of parallel sides, and the 2 pairs have the same length. In fact, all 4 sides have the same length. It also meets the criteria, so it's also a parallelogram and it's also a trapezoid. So a square is a rhombus, a rectangle, a parallelogram, and a trapezoid. Can a rhombus be a square? Think about it. Can a rhombus be a square? Raise your hand if you think that a rhombus can be a square. Raise your hands if you think a rhombus cannot be a square. For those of you with your hand up, you're right. Do you know why a rhombus cannot be a square? It's missing. It's missing something important. A rhombus does not have right angles, so a rhombus cannot be a square. So although a square can be a rhombus cannot be a square. Although a square can be a rectangle cannot be a square because it's missing 4 sides of the same length. I hope that makes sense to you. You know what? Let's try some practice. So we talked a little bit about convex and non-convex shapes. Convex means that all of the vertices, all the points point outward. And we said non-convex or concave, you can point inwards, inside the shape or the figure that you have. So let's put a circle around our convex shapes, and let's put an X on our non-convex or concave shapes. So let's look at the first shape. It looks like a star. So I'm looking at the points, the vertices, and where the 2 lines meet, and I see some that are going outward and some that are going inwards. Their direction, right? So, is this shape, this figure here, is it convex? Should I circle it? Or is it non-convex? Should I put an X on it? Go ahead, you can say it. You're right, I put an X on it. It is non-convex or concave. Let's look at the next shape. So here I'm looking at my points, where the 2 lines meet, and I'm noticing they all point away from the figure. So is this convex or non-convex? What should I do? Should I put a circle or an X? A circle. I think you understand now. Let's just do one more. So I'm looking at my vertices, my points where the 2 lines meet. So far they're going out, 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 out. But look at this one. This one points inward like a cave, doesn't it? So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put an X. It is non-convex, or we can say concave. Great job. Okay, so for those of you following along in your book, go ahead, turn to page 62. Let's answer some true or false questions. A square is also a rhombus. Do you remember? If not, you can go back and look at page 61. A square is also a rhombus. Raise your hand if you think that is true. Raise your hand if you think that is false. Those of you who said true, you are amazing. Those of you who said false, you are amazing, because now you've learned that it's true. And it's important that we learn from our mistakes, right? Wonderful. Let's go on. B, a trapezoid is also a square. Ooh, a trapezoid is also a square. Let's go back and look. So, a trapezoid is also a square. Does a trapezoid have 4 right angles? No, it doesn't. So if it doesn't have 4 right angles, a trapezoid cannot be a square. So it's going to have to be false for B. You knew that. C, 2 squares can form a rectangle. Oh, this one's fun because you get to do a little drawing. 2 squares can form a rectangle. Well, just try it out, right? If I have 2 squares and I line them up, do they form a rectangle? Well, I have 2 sides that are parallel, a pair of sides that are parallel, and this pair of sides are parallel. They form right angles. So I would say that is true. If I put 2 squares together, they will form a rectangle. True. We got it right. Let's look at D. 2 rectangles can form a triangle. Oh, that's going to be a little more difficult. Let's see. 2 rectangles. How would I form a triangle? Well, we have to know that a triangle has how many sides? Triangle has how many sides? Tri means 3. I don't know, everyone. Looks like I'm going to get 4 sides every time. I'm not sure how I can draw a rectangle and then another rectangle to get a triangle. I'm going to have to go with false on this one. If you can do it, that's amazing. But I'm going to go with false. I can't do it. False. When I put 2 rectangles together, I'm always going to have more than 3 sides. Let's look at the last one, though. That's intriguing. What if I had 2 triangles? Can I form a square? Go ahead and try. See if you can maybe rotate or move the triangles around so that you can get a square. I'm going to do it off camera, and I want you to try on your page and see if you can get 2 triangles to form a square. Oh, I know what you should do. Maybe you should draw a square. So go ahead and just draw a square. Now, is there any way, so here's my square. is there any way to split your square so that you have two triangles? Can you make two triangles? Well, if I go down the center, that's not going to make two triangles. But I do see a way, actually. Who thinks they have it? How can you draw a line to form two triangles out of a square? Who thinks they know it? If you still don't know, you can pause the video until you figure it out. But I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to show you how to make a square into two triangles. All you have to do is draw a line diagonally. So from corner to corner, now you have 1, 2 triangles. Or you could have done it with the other diagonal, right? You could have gone this way, and now you have 2 triangles. That's pretty cool. So, 2 triangles can form a square? I would say that is true. I was able to do that, and so were you. Way to go. We are rolling. Look at this. We're on page 63. On 63, they give us many shapes, and they say that we have to classify them. So we're going to say the number of sides that the shape has. We're going to say the number of right angles. We're just going to count the right angles. We're going to look at the number of pairs of parallel sides. Remember that you need 2 lines to make 1 pair. And then we're going to look at the number of pairs of sides of the same length. A is which shape? What do we call this shape? It has 4 sides, 4 right angles. What is it? A square? Yeah, this is a square. So let's count the number of sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 sides. How many right angles in a square? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 right angles. The number of pairs of parallel sides. So these 2 sides are 1 pair. The top and the bottom is 1 pair. And the left and right side is another pair of parallel sides. So we have 1 pair and 2 pairs. That's where they're getting the number 2 from. And then the number of pairs of sides of the same length. 1, 2. 2 sides of the same length. Let's see how a rectangle is different than a square. The number of sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 sides, you're right. The number of right angles, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's also 4. The number of pairs of parallel sides, 1, top and bottom, 2, the 2 sides. So far, they're exactly the same. So let's look at the number of pairs of sides of the same length. So these 2 sides have the same length, that's 1 pair, and these 2 sides have the same length. The numbers are exactly the same for a square and a rectangle. Let's move on. Let's look at page 64. So on page 64, you get your shapes back. But they want to know all the possible names for these figures. So think about the page, the first page we worked on, 61. We saw a polygon, a quadrilateral, a parallelogram, a rectangle, a rhombus, and a square. So they're saying that the rectangle is a polygon because it has many sides. It's a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. It's a parallelogram, and it's also a rectangle. You know what's missing is the trapezoid. They didn't give us trapezoid here. Maybe that'll make it a little bit easier for us. Let's look at B, the shape of B. Is it a polygon? Does it have many sides? Yes, it is a polygon. So you will write PO for polygons. They're so kind. They don't want you to have to write out polygon, so you can just put PO. Is it a quadrilateral? Does it have 4 sides? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. So you can just put a Q for quadrilateral. Is it a parallelogram? What was a parallelogram again? Do you remember? If you don't remember, it's easy as going back. What is a parallelogram? So on page 61, a parallelogram, convex polygon, so its points point outward. It has 2 pairs of parallel sides of the same length. 2 pairs, and these 2 sides have the same length, and these 2 sides have the same length. So yes, it's a parallelogram. So you can put PA. Is it a rectangle? Does it have 90 degrees, right angles? No. So it is not a rectangle. Is it a rhombus? No. And it's also not a square. So for B, you're going to have PO for polygon, Q for quadrilateral, and PA for parallelogram. Let's try C. Is C a polygon? Does it have many sides? Yes, it does. It has many sides. Is the figure closed? Yes. And are the sides straight lines? Yes. So C is definitely a polygon. Is it a quadrilateral? No, it doesn't have 4 sides. It has 1, 2, 3 sides. Is it a parallelogram? Well, I don't see any sides that are parallel. No, it's not. Is it a rectangle? A rectangle needs 4 sides. Is it a rhombus? No, it needs 4 sides, and a square needs 4 sides, and also they need 90-degree angles. They need right angles. So C is just a polygon, and that's okay. Polygons are amazing. You want to do one more? Do you want to try D together? Sure, why not? So, is D a polygon? Yeah, it is. D is a polygon. Is D a quadrilateral? Does it have 4 sides? Yeah, it does. D is a polygon and a quadrilateral. Is D a parallelogram? Does it have parallel sides? How many parallel sides did a polygon need again? It's okay to keep going back to page 61. Keep checking if you're not sure. Oh, it needed 2 pairs of parallel sides, and they had to be the same length. So let's look at D. I see 1 pair of parallel sides, but these lines, these sides are going to eventually hit together if you keep drawing them. So it's not a parallelogram. Is it a rectangle? No, it's not a rectangle. These two sides are not the same length. Is it a rhombus? No, it's not a rhombus, and it's also not a square. So, D is going to be just a polygon and a quadrilateral. And that's okay. It is a beautiful shape. Wonderful. I think you're ready. I think you understand what polygons are, and I think you understand that quadrilaterals have 4 sides, and that we can classify them. We can name our polygons and quadrilaterals. We can name them trapezoids, we can name them parallelograms, or rectangles, or rhombuses, or even squares. That's amazing. Way to go. I'm so proud of you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.